Welcome back to the Peruvian Waltz Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Birdie, and I got a little bit of a different hairstyle today, but I'm not going to talk about that. It's you probably didn't even notice it, so I'm wearing a ponytail this time. It looks pretty cool.
Okay, well, you are talking about it, Brian.
Started off early.
Hello. Okay, I'm here.
Hello. Hi.
Okay. I'll introduce you guys. Don't speak until I introduce you. So because Christopher spoke, he's going last. We have Diego back. How are you, Diego? Diego Montalban.
I'm good. Thank you, guys.
All right. And how are you, Peter? Joining us in Toronto, Canada.
Also doing very well and rocking my Peruvian Waltz shirt, unlike Christopher, who actually just received his. So I'm making up for his little mishap today.
I could have worn mine today. I'm wearing an AC/DC shirt instead, but that's because I couldn't find mine anywhere, so it's probably washing right now. And Christopher, let's introduce you last, like I promised. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yes, I didn't wear my jersey today, my Peruvian Waltz shirt, because like I was saying before we started the pod, today was actually the first day of school for me. And I was just like, not a lot of people here in Utah are interested in the Copa Peru, So, yeah, anyways.
So just a little Copa Peru shout out. Sport Juventud Locumba reached the national stage, and Christopher's disappointed because I thought I was going to say Sport Ancash. But no, I wanted to give them a shout out because they lost last year to Coronel Bolognesi 23-0, and this year they overcame them. And now they're in the national stage. So I have to give a shout out to them. So that's an amazing. And I was also shout out to Molinos El Pirata, which have the best badge in history. For those who haven't seen it, it's basically a circle with Jack Sparrow in it. I kid you not. So I think you guys should look that up. But let's get we've spoken enough crap for the first few minutes. Let's actually get on with business now. So we're gonna talk about the call-ups. Now, the national team call-ups, we've seen a lot of surprises. I'm not sure how many of you were expecting surprises. I was kind of indifferent. I was just, maybe we'll see something new. Maybe we'll see the same. I don't know. What I wanted to see, something new. Because, like I said, I think Gareca's big challenge here was not letting the current generation stagnate. I think he's done a really good job with this call-up. So the newcomers are Johan Madrid, Marcos Lopez, Raison Thomas is already a newcomer, but he's definitely a surprise for some people. And the big surprise, Horacio Calcaterra, who's actually not even Peruvian at all. He's Argentinian, but unlike a certain Bolivian Paraguayan I know, he's been in the country 5 years. So he's been in the country 5 years.
Bolivian Paraguayan that we need to think.
Yes, Nelson Cabrera, national hero.
Yeah.
No, but Horacio, there's a lot of controversy about Horacio Calcaterra's call-up. Personally, I don't see why, because we've had a lot of Argentinians nationalized as Peruvians at a much later age too. Like Julinho, Julinho is not Argentinian, but he started playing for Peru at 31 years old. So I don't see what the big fuzz is here. Calcaterra, maybe it's because we have a more modern generation where playing in the local league isn't as prestigious anymore as it used to be. But I still think it's a good call-up because I think it's an experiment that I'm fine with. And he's definitely a very classic Peruvian style player. So what do you guys think about Horacio Calcaterra's call-up? Do you think it's the call-up is a bit not the call-up, but the criticism is a bit uncalled for? I'll let Christopher go first.
Well, I think that my first reaction was kind of a knee-jerk reaction of, well, don't we have fine Peruvian players that could do the same? But as time went on, it's kind of like, he's lived in the country long enough, and he has Peruvian citizenship as of a few months ago. And so I honestly don't think that he's actually going to play in either match. I think that, like Gareca has done in the past, he will bring on a few players just to see them. Maybe he'll get, a few minutes. But honestly, I think that he's probably second fiddle. He's not going to be a starter or anything like that. So Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't think he's that old either. I mean, like you said,
He's
Julinho was
29.
31.
He's 29.
31. I
So.
think 29. I honestly, I don't know what Gareca has really in mind with all of this. Maybe the other panelists would have a better opinion on that. But no, I think it's okay. I mean, after I gave it some thought, I was more at peace with that decision.
All right, Diego, why don't you go next? What is your thought on the criticism towards Calcaterra's call-up?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat as Christopher. At first, it was a big surprise, but and it was a surprise for me mostly because of his age, and like Christopher said, that there are other Peruvians that could play that position, but again, like Christopher said, I don't think he's gonna start any of the games. Well, he might get some minutes, but I think because of how he's been playing with Sporting Cristal, then I guess it's a fine call.
And Peter, what are your thoughts before we move on to the next little discussion of this?
Yeah, I'm with Diego on the fact that I'm pretty sure the reason why Calcaterra got the call-up is because of his form with Cristal, and obviously they have been the cream of the crop of the Descentralizado in 2018. So this is why I think you saw pretty much all the new call-ups. In fact, all the newcomers are Cristal players for this very reason, I think. Lopez, as we'll get onto a little bit later, maybe a different reason, which I'll bring up later. But listen, Calcaterra, he can offer you something that I think not a lot of the current midfielders can. He's a bit more of a box-to-box presence, a connector in midfield, whereas a lot of the midfielders in the team, maybe outside of Sergio Peña, can't really do that. So I think that he offers them something unique in that way. And listen, at the end of the day, these are friendlies. People do need to calm down a little bit. It's not like he's getting called in for crucial World Cup qualifiers here. I say if a player is playing well and he deserves a call-up and his form is good, you can't hurt anybody by giving him a shot and calling him up.
Well, let me add one more thing, if I may. First of all, it's obvious that the only that your good form is not the only condition that Gareca is taking into consideration, because if that was the case, obviously I think that there's a lot of names that are missing from this list that would call just as much attention as Calcaterra's call-up. On the other hand, to also defend him, he has been in the country since at least 10 years now, right? And from when I did a little research about him, he started like at Unión Comercio and worked his way up. So if anything, I think that there's nothing more Peruvian than starting at a small club out in the middle of nowhere and kind of earning your spot in the national team. I think that right there, considering that he moved to the country before he was even 20, makes him, pretty Peruvian per se. As pretty Peruvian, the stereotypical, Peruvian player career, I guess.
All right, and my next question is kind of segued. I guess we can go with a brief answer because there's a big part that I kind of want to get into. Do you think Gabriel Costa will follow suit, especially if André Carrillo doesn't perform in the next few months because of, let's say, his form gets down? And I mean, you could always have Hurtado on that right, but other than that, there's no one else really. I think Costa's much better than Polo, for example. Do you think Costa will follow suit? What do you think, Peter?
I mean, you wouldn't rule it out for that very reason that you just mentioned. And he's eligible, next year, I believe, for a call-up in January.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he got called up for March, let's say, especially if he finishes the season strongly. If it wasn't for Emmanuel Herrera and his amazing goal-scoring form, Gabriel Costa, I think, would be the most discussed player in the league and probably the player of the season. My eyes, you could definitely make the argument he is because he can do everything.
I think he's better than Herrera, actually. I think Herrera just gets the attention because he gets all the goals. And I think Herrera's a great player, but I think Costa's really the magic in that team.
Yeah, I think without Costa, you would not have Herrera and his goal-scoring form. Let's just put it that way. I think Costa is the player who really kind of makes that attack click
That's a good point, actually, because it was the same. Like, you think about Lobos and Emelec, where he really didn't perform much. He didn't have that supporting player, and then Melgar, he had Omar Fernandez. So you gotta think about that supporting player, and I think Costa really does play a part. I want you to finish what you were saying, Peter. Sorry for interrupting.
No worries. Very good point, actually, that you do bring up as well. And then in general, I think because of the fact that it is a new cycle. Gareca's obviously shown a willingness to give naturalized players, no matter how old they are, an opportunity. And Gabriel Costa, even though he is
28,
he's 28, 29, something like that. He'll be 29 in the springtime, I believe. So still in that really good age range where he's in his prime and can give you something right now. And if Gareca's aim is to win the Copa America or make another deep run in the Copa America, then I think Costa's someone who can definitely help you. Especially if he, again, starts 2019 strongly as well. So, yeah, I definitely think that it could follow suit, especially considering I think he could give you a lot right away.
All right. Well, if anyone wants to jump in, just jump in now. But while I talk. But I wanted to say that the next bit we're going to talk about is something that I think we should discuss most of the pod. Maybe not most of the pod, but a good portion. Because I think that there's a lot of discussion about names that missed out. And I want to hear your guys' opinions on who missed out. And I have three, maybe not three names, but I have one name that immediately sticks out. Patricio Arce, who is a very good player, but he doesn't receive the attention he deserves. He's been very good for the past few years, and he's kind of like Santillán. Like, he's been very good, but no one ever talks about him. Because he's not playing for a team in Lima. So it is a bit frustrating because he's a very good player. He's the one that sticks out. Cesar Cueto suggested earlier that Yuya should be in the national team. Now, you all know I'm a big Yuya fan, but I don't think he's ready. I think I still think he still some things to learn. And especially this past Apertura for him has not been good. So I think that he's an option for the future. He still has time. But right now, he's not ready. What do you guys think? Diego, I'll let you go first. Who do you think
Brian, we actually have a question on this sort of topic in terms of, like, who do you think was unlucky to miss out on the squad? Who do you think was lucky to make the squad?
Well, I guess it's kind of different from what I'm asking, but just read it out, I guess. We can answer both in one. So,
sure. So Abel Gamarra at Abelanda81 asking us, who were the luckiest and the unluckiest players in the latest Peru squad? He's thinking that Pato Alvarez is lucky because Duarte is on the bench at Lobos, and Christian Benavente is probably the unluckiest. I'm sure we'll talk about him later. But, yeah, if you want to maybe go on terms of who your surprises were or who was unlucky to miss out, Diego, you can go ahead.
Yeah, obviously I think the biggest name that everyone knows is Benavente. And that's because just his form in Belgium has been really, really good, and because of that, I thought he would be given another chance to see, especially in these friendlies, to see if he could be a part of the squad for Copa America coming up.
Yeah, I'll go with my answer for because this is kind of a different question. Like I said Pato Arce should be one that should be considered. I'm not saying he's been unlucky. I'm saying that he should be considered, which is different. Just think about it. It's a very different concept. But I do think the luckiest player, Pato Alvarez. Yeah, his form has improved, but there's been better. Rivadeneira has been better, and I'll go Rivadeneira in a second. There's another keeper that's been better as well. But first. I also want to talk about a lucky player. Loyola's been lucky, like he always is. He's been lucky for the past few squads. But he's improving defensively, but he's still not on par with the squad, in my opinion. He's really just there because there's no better backup. So, Loyola's there. And, as for other players that I think should have been, some people say Marcio Valverde. And as much as I love Marcio Valverde, I think he's a bit too old. I mean, I know he's just a year older in Calcaterra, but 1 year could be a big difference. Like, some people don't see it, but 1 year can be a big difference. And I think that applies for Valverde because Valverde by the next cycle will be 34. And Calcaterra will be 33, which I think is fair enough. I think 34 for a midfielder is a bit too old, but 33 is still at a decent age. It's kind of a weird concept, but that's just what I think. And as for the other goalkeeper I was mentioning, I said Rivadeneira, who was one of the best keepers in the league, in my opinion. He's been that since last season, and he still is, and he's never discussed. and Raul Fernandez, who's been fantastic for Raul in recent times. Someone called him. I saw somebody recently call him instead of Superman, he called him Super Mantequilla, and I had to applaud him for that. But no, he's been very good in recent times, and I think that I'm not sure if he deserves a call because of his past reputation. That would have got some controversy, but if he keeps his form up, then we can definitely expect him as third keeper because this has been as good as 2013 Raul Fernandez. In my opinion, maybe not as good, but he's on course to get back to his best. So those are a few of my opinions. Yep, and those are a few of my opinions. Christopher, why don't you go over the players you think missed out? Let me guess. Daniel Posito.
No, no, Daniel Posito. But talking about former players from Sport Rosario, I was a little surprised that Madrid got a call up. Especially because a long time ago, we talked about how at the international level he was lacking some experience and how Dad might have played into some poor performances while in Libertadores. Or wait, actually, Sudamericana, not Libertadores, with Sporting Cristal. But who knows? I think it's been a few months, so therefore things might be better for him if he does have a chance to try himself abroad with the national team. I think that was a little bit of a surprise for me. Also, I was thinking also about Raul Fernandez and how he's been with Universitario for sure. Other than that, like Edison Flores, really, I know that he obviously has a big piece of the heart of Peruvian fans, and especially even abuelitas know who Edison Flores is now. But I don't know, like honestly, to be honest, has he even had minutes with his club? I mean, I've been trying to keep track of him, and I feel like every time I check Albert's lineup, I don't even see him on the bench.
Yeah, he's in the reserves right now.
Exactly. So I get that he's a mundialista and everything, but considering that there's other, like Benavente, like we already said, that didn't get called up either. I don't know if what's really the logic with having Flores still on the main squad.
Well, I think that it has to do with how important he was in qualifying because how many goals he scored. I think Gareca still sees the ability in him, but he's not getting playing time. But I think that's gonna if this keeps up, then I think Gareca will drop him. But right now, I don't think it's big enough of a problem for him to do so. It's still the start of the season after all. So
right.
Yeah. So I did want to say one other thing. Like Kyan's been called up, so it looks like he's gonna be forever punished, unfortunately. Which I know is there's not much room for him, which I didn't think we'd be saying 5 years ago. I didn't think our center back depth would be so good, but I am a bit disappointed because I do think that he deserved a call up. I think he deserved that. I think he's kind of what do I say? He's a tricky player because he knows how to win. He knows how to. Maybe I don't want to say he knows how to win red cards. There's just one game, okay? But like he has the provocative nature in him. I think that's something that Peru really lack right now, to be honest. Well, aside from Cueva has the provocative nature. I think Cueva goes about it in the wrong way. So I think that Cayens should be given another chance. If he doesn't take it, then just never call him up again. But right now, I think he should be given another chance. I do think that Gareca is doing the right thing, but he does need to make a blank slate completely. And that even includes Zambrano. But right now, I wouldn't call up Zambrano myself. So, Peter, why don't you give your opinion? We made you wait long enough. Why don't you give your opinions of who missed out and who should be?
Well, first of all, Zambrano has a new club, Basel, just signed for them this week. So we'll see what happens with that. And in terms of anybody who's lucky, I don't think anybody's particularly lucky to make the squad. I think they all have their reasons for being there.
Well, who do you think that should have been there as well, though? It's not just about being unlucky.
No, I know. I was going to get to that.
What suggestions? Yeah, I'm sorry then.
I was going to get to that. The only player to me who's unlucky is Jean-Pierre Reiner, who was being monitored by Gareca, doing very well at Grasshoppers. He's actually a player who could probably displace Loyola because he can play as both a left-sided center back and a left back, both very comfortably, although he is primarily a center back by trade. Actually played at left back in the Swiss Cup this weekend with Grasshoppers and actually did very well in that position. He's 22 years old. I'm sure people have read up about him because he was on Gareca's radar and was supposed to get called up, but because of some issue with his paperwork to file the one-time switch of nationality, because he is Swiss-born, he wasn't called up in time. So I think he's very unlucky because he probably would have been in this squad, even more so because these friendlies are in Europe. He obviously doesn't have to travel very far. So it would have been a perfect time for him to potentially make his debut. So he's, for me, the only player that I can think of in terms who's really, really unlucky because it looked like he was in line for it.
Yeah, okay. I about Reiner, I've never actually seen him, so I couldn't tell you about him. But if he's a starter for Grasshoppers, then I think that does qualify for Peru, to be honest. Because not many good players are playing for big clubs. I think Grasshoppers is definitely one that does qualify because they're decent this club in Switzerland. I know they're a big club. I don't know how good they are now, but they're definitely a big club. But anyways, there's one more thing I wanted to bring up, and that is Alejandro Horberg. A lot of people complain that he should be on the squad. I'm happy that he's not because he's simply not good enough. Every time he's forced to play at a higher level, he has failed. I know Peter's gonna get to me about like the whole team was poor in the Libertadores. I get that, but like how poor is it? Like the whole team can be poor, but that doesn't mean that like he didn't even show glimpses of quality in the campaign.
Yeah,
he just completely disappeared. I mean, even the poorest teams. Like Cristal last year was shocking, but there was some glimpse of quality from Avila and Sandoval. And was Alianza, there's no glimpse of quality from anybody, and Horberg included. I think the only one that showed any sort of quality was Miguel Araujo in that Libertadores campaign. And he couldn't play by himself. So I think Horberg shouldn't be on the team. And in the Copa America Centenario, he failed as well. And against Cristal, he's usually a ghost. So I don't know why people are complaining. He's simply not good enough. And he's not a Peruvian style player either. If you call him up, we're going to get to see the same thing that happens to Benavente every time he gets called up. It just won't work.
I think.
Do you want to say something, Leo?
Yeah, I think the thing with Holberg is when I think about it, I think who would we take out? Who is going to sit out and take that spot? You know, whose spot is he going to take right now? I just can't come up with a name to say, okay, I'm going to drop anyone that's in that 3 slot or the 2 slot where you're doing in Tapia play. I just don't see it. I just don't see who we would sit for him.
Speaking of, there's one more player that I just thought of right now that could have been on the national team. He's been in sensational form, albeit in a different position. But since Corso's injured, how much does it hurt to call Rodrigo Cuba? Because he's been very good in recent times, and he can score goals as well, just like Corso can. So I think that that's definitely one option that you could have had because he's one of the best right backs in the league. Sure, he's no Luis Advíncula. He sure is not up to par with Corso, but I still think he's a player that's not far off Corso either. So that's definitely one that I just thought of. Do any of you guys have any other suggestions that you think should have been on the national team? I think I mentioned most of mine. Rivadeneira, Arce, or not Valverde, but I mentioned him as well. I've just mentioned him. And Yuya, even though I don't want him, I mentioned him as well. Is there anyone else you think that should have been on the team? Or any suggestions?
No, I'm pretty much cleared up.
well, that's a disappointing answer. All right. I guess we can move on to the next bit of the podcast then. In the 2 games against Holland and Germany. First of all, what are your pre-expectations from, like, what do you expect from these 2 games? Do you want to see us win against 2 very traditional nations, or do you want to see an experimental Peru and then hope for them to experimental Peru and hope for them to prove something, the players to prove something for the next qualifying campaign or the Copa America? What do you guys think? I'll start with you, Diego.
All right. I obviously would love them to win, but a part of me wants to see a system where Rui Diaz works, because I think, or seeing Rui Diaz having played for Monaco Morelia and now, and he's still scoring goals or setting up goals. I would like to see how we can make it work with him as the 9. And I think maybe that would be a 4-4-2. So part of me wants to see some experimenting.
I think we have to. I think we have to try something like that as well, because Guerrero's probably not going to be available anymore after this. Especially, I mean, he might be available next year, but we can't rely on him for the next 4 years. That's my point.
Right.
So I think we've got to at least try to make him work somehow, at least until we have another 9. And that's not to disrespect Ruiz. That's not to disrespect Ruiz Diaz at all. I think he's a great player, but I just don't think anything we do is going to make him a super player for Peru. I think he'll be a good to great player max, but not a super player like Guerrero was. So I think that as much as I love Ruiz Diaz, I think he's better coming off the bench and scoring a few goals or as a second striker in general. So I think we definitely got to try something at least until Olivares develops or if Succar makes a comeback. So or someone else pops up. Yeah, Avila as well. But I have some comments on. I have some comments on Avila.
He just scored.
I have some comments on Avila, and I'll save that for Peruvians abroad, which will kind of mixing in with the national team talk. But I think that's one thing we can do. What about you two? What do you guys want to see it? For the one, I'll do a coin toss. The one who talks first wins.
Christopher, go for it.
You talk first. You talk first. You have to go now.
I'm conceding.
Fine. Okay. Like I said a few weeks ago, I don't personally think that Ruiz Diaz is the future of the national team. I think that yes, he's a temporary replacement, and I think that we have some time to hope and pray and see if some other striker will step up to the plate and become our next quote unquote Paolo Guerrero, our next big player. Especially because Ruiz Diaz will be about 32 by the time the next World Cup hits. So I think a good peak for his career would probably be the next not the next World Cup, but the next Copa America. But yeah, I do tend to agree that I think he's a great super sub, and I think that he gives us some options, but that we still need someone tall. And I'm sorry that it is a little bit of a height issue for me, especially if we want to continue to be competitive and play against European teams that are going to outdo us by 2, 3, 4 inches. I know it's not that big of a deal. I know that he has a great vertical or whatever, but still, though, I think we just need more options in general. Of course, I always want to see the national team win, obviously, but it's okay. If we lose, if we tie, if we can see progress, then for me, it's okay. And so I think that's my greatest expectation. For me to see the beginning of a new process, see progress, see some individuals stand out and kind of try to carve themselves a spot in the national team. To me, that will be progress. If we can discover at least one new player that seems to have what it takes for this next qualifying campaign, to me, that will be important.
All right, and Peter, what are your 2 cents on this before we can go to the Peruvians abroad?
So, first of all, on that process that Christopher mentions, I think part of that has to be the continuity of the system. We're now seeing the youth national teams playing a very similar style and formation to the senior team, which is exactly what happens in Uruguay with El Proceso that was obviously started by Oscar Tabares. And I think that as long as you maintain that system in some way, that's what matters. Testing yourself against the European elite is also huge. We all know that South America, for many reasons, the European elite and the gap between them and South America is widening even more. So the more that you can test yourselves against those kinds of teams is great. The end result, to me, doesn't really matter so much as the performance and how you fare mentally against these teams. As for the Ruiz Diaz point, I am of the opinion that he is the best pure finisher Peru has developed in quite some time. I'm racking my brain trying to think about it because Guerrero was never really like a pure out-and-out finisher. Neither was Pizarro, although maybe at Bayern he was, in the Bundesliga he was, but for Peru not so much, mainly because the team was crap, but I digress. It has been decades since they've had a finisher of this caliber. And we see national teams in the past like Spain winning the World Cup with mainly short players in attack and in the midfield. Peru, the average height for a man is among the shortest in the Western Hemisphere. So you're probably not going to get a player who's 6 foot or above playing up front, unfortunately. There's a chance that a player could emerge, but until then, I say you have to do everything you can to accommodate Rui Diaz into this system, because as we've seen with Seattle, as we've seen with Monarcas, when he has that system that is free-flowing and there's this quick one-touch passing and he gets some space in the box, he will finish a chance. And I think that there is a way to be able to get that out of him. You just have to try and keep the ball on the ground, not go so direct all the time, and actually try to play with the ball at your feet, because we have the players to do that. You just have to put them in the system to be able to succeed. And I think for the next year or two, that is going to be one of Gareca's top priorities.
For sure.
Here's one thing. I'm 6 feet tall. Sign me up.
There you go. Keep volunteers.
I'm taller as well. I'm tall as well.
I'm 5'11".
Funny how we're all Peruvian, we're all tall, and yet none of us are professional footballers.
What have we done with our lives?
You almost became one, Peter, but you were gonna be like the Peter Crouch target man.
I was a goalkeeper, Brian. I will never stop saying that.
You're the Peter Crouch target man. I'm convinced.
I could have been
disciplined.
Yeah,
you could have led your team to the Gothic Cup final. Come on.
Yes, I could have. Actually, that's true. At 14 years old.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to Peruvian abroad now. We're only going to talk about two because we're only going to talk about we're going to talk about one that's not in the national team, but that's only because he kind of mixes out, he kind of blends in with another player, and that's the first one we're going to talk about. Even Avila and Ray Sandoval kind of blends in with the national team player Ray Sandoval. We've already talked about him. I saw the match earlier from Monarcas, the one that was right before the podcast. And there's a few things I wanted to note. Ray Sandoval has looked a lot better than I've ever seen him. He didn't score or assist today, but he's getting in all the right positions. And sometimes he does struggle with the ball, but that's something. His decision-making has never been the best. But it is better than when he was a Sporting Cristal, when he was 20, 21 years old. It's a lot better than it was then. So he's definitely improving bit by bit. And as for Avila, he is a good player, but I think Monarcas is going to be the best he's ever going to get because he's too slow, firstly. Today, every time there's a through ball going up front, he can never catch up with the defenders. He would never be able to beat the offside trap. So I think he's way too slow, firstly. Secondly, he does miss. He's not the best finisher. I mean, he's a decent finisher, but he's like at Guerrero level of finishing. He'll miss some, he'll score some. But he's never going to be he doesn't have all the other traits that Guerrero has, so that kind of lets him down a little bit. And 3, what was number 3? I just don't. Well, he's not tall. That's another thing. And he scored headers. Don't get me wrong. He's great at headers, but he
scored a header today.
Yeah, that's what I meant. He scored a header today. He's not the best at headers. And I'm not trying to go all hate on Avila. I like Avila. I think he's a decent player, but I just don't think he's going to go sky high. Rui Diaz technically didn't go sky high, but you can blame age for that. But I don't. Well, I guess you can't compare them because they were both in Monarcas. But I don't think Rui Diaz. You can say he could end up at America. He could end up at Tigres. But I just can't say the same for Avila. I think Monarcas, which is a decent club in fairness, is the best he's going to get. And I think that's why I wouldn't call him up for the national team. Now remember that Avila and Sandoval have a great partnership. They've had it since Sporting Cristal. And I think that that's definitely one thing that's definitely given confidence to Sandoval, having his partner that he's performed so well, and especially in the dire times of Sporting Cristal, which is last year, of course. So I think that Avila does have his problems, and I think he'll be wise to stay at Monarcas because he'll do well there. He's going to be a good player for them, but I don't think he's going to be anything extraordinary. And as for Sandoval, he just needs to do his best and hope his career can kick off because I think he has a future now. Before, I wasn't a fan of him, but slowly I'm starting to like him a lot more. What do you guys think?
So on that partnership, I think that's a great point because I think as the games have gone on, we're starting to see Sandoval and Avila connecting more and more. Obviously, evidence of that was over the weekend when Sandoval assisted Avila's goal. He was also, and it must be worth mentioning too, towards the end of the Clausura, right around like late April, early May, Sandoval was actually doing very well because he got a consistent run of games. Whereas before, he was in and out of the 11, he was getting substituted into the game. His first appearance, he actually got a red card after 2 minutes. I'm sure everybody remembers that one.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Like what a way to start your career in Mexico. You get sent off within 2-3 minutes of you coming onto the pitch. But listen, he's Hernandez, the manager of Monarcas, has been very patient with him. And also we're noting too, he's playing out of position on the left wing these days. And he's doing very well there. He's taking on defenders. He has quicker decision making. He's dribbling past the first man. It's remarkable what he has been able to do because he has been leaned on more and has become more of a focal point in the attack. And that's great. Avila, look, what you see is what you get with him. He has an excellent work rate off the ball. I think he really helps you in terms of leading the line. And he does kind of unlock those spaces in and around the defense because he's going to close down the defender on the ball, and that's massive. So I think both of them together, it's a nice partnership, and you're seeing Monarcas benefiting from it.
For sure. Yeah, what do you guys think, the rest?
Going off of what Peter said, I really like the way they interchange positions. When Sandoval runs in, Avila will kind of drop to the side, and it just works. It's been working, like Peter said.
And Christopher, any thoughts?
No, I think I would agree mostly with what you guys have said regarding that partnership. And Monarca just as a random fact, I guess, Monarca just published a little picture saying that every Peruvian player that has ever played for them has scored, which I think is a cool thing.
Yeah,
So,
top two scorers, Rui Diaz, obviously, and Andre Mendoza second. Andre Mendoza, probably the most remembered Peruvian of all time for all the wrong reasons.
I'm still waiting for him to call me.
Yeah.
He just because he missed that goal versus Ecuador, a goal that meant no. Like that is a Peruvian's favorite move. Celebrating a goal that means no. Just think about Fano's goal against Argentina, the most celebrated goal of all time for Peru that didn't mean crap. I mean,
Love it.
No, I think Farfan's goal against New Zealand is probably now the most celebrated.
now, but before
that,
Fano versus Argentina, the goal that didn't mean anything. Because we were already out, and we were just getting a draw. So
that's true.
Technically, we weren't out, but we were on our way to being out. I will point that out.
let's go.
It's about our Peruvian pride. Let's be honest. You know.
Yes.
Well,
That's
I
all
remember,
it's
I remember
about.
my last point now. The last point I wanted to make. Avila does get in very good positions. I think that's the other thing I noticed. I didn't want to just trash him because I think he's a good player, like I said. But I did notice some weaknesses that I think are going to hold him back from being in the national team anymore. So I think he's going to be. I think that's a good thing for us because I think that adds some depth to the squad in general. Because you got to think about Colombia. I mean, Colombia has a really big population. Being fair there, but I mean, I see a lot of Colombians in Mexico that don't get a chance. And I think it's a good thing to have that because before any Peruvian that went abroad, they'll be in the national team immediately. Now you have Peruvians abroad, and you have to work for it. Before, all you have to do is just play abroad. Now you actually have to work for it. And I think it's a very good thing, even if it's not the best, even if it's not the most positive note for even Avila in general. I do think that sends a good message to Peru. So the Peruvian football. So anyways, let's go on to the next player. And me and Peter had a lovely debate about this, but Luis Advíncula did not start in this first Live game. And his substitute, me and Peter were arguing it all day. I'm like, he should start. He's better than Tony. And Peter's like, you shouldn't start. There's another tactic. And I don't know who was right in the end because I think we were both wrong because Tony got absolutely massacred. But Advíncula, when he came on, he was decent, but he did look tactically flawed. Like he wasn't in it yet. But at the same time, I do think Advíncula should have started because Tony just got so massacred that even a crippled Advíncula wouldn't have gone that massacred.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Well, okay, I will say this, though, in your defense. After that botched offside trap that Advíncula was unfortunately a victim of and allowed Sevilla, who admittedly were up 3-0 at the time when Advíncula came on and the game was a foregone conclusion, was the reason why Sevilla scored the fourth goal, because he kept everybody on side. After that, he did recover and actually played quite well in the final 10, 12 minutes of the game. So, and he actually offered a lot more going forward than pretty much any other player did for Rayo in the entire match. So from that aspect, look, if he was familiar with the system and he wasn't fatigued, absolutely he should start. Don't forget, this is a marathon, not a sprint. But I do agree, Brian. I mean, if he is in the right frame of mind, he should be starting every week, and I'm sure he will be a key player, hopefully, starting in the next match.
Yeah, because Tony got absolutely massacred. So. It's like, yeah, okay. What do you guys think? What about you two? Whoever jumps in first wins. Diego already won, so.
No, I was going to say, I totally think that Advíncula will have that starting position at Rayo Vallecano. I agree with Peter that, he's still learning the system, learning the tactics of the coach, of the team. So I can understand why he wasn't a starter in this game and maybe even the next game. But going forward after that, I don't see why he wouldn't be the starter.
And what about you, Christopher?
I agree. I'm trying to think of his time back at Lobos also in his first few matches there. If I'm not mistaken, it was kind of similar. He started slow, he started easy. And let's remember, he was great in Argentina. And people were surprised that he was leaving Argentina for, the newest Liga MX club. And so obviously, of course, he's better than the whole team. He should be starting. And we kind of saw the same thing, right? He started easy, he started slow, and eventually he was in every single match. So I'm expecting kind of the same thing this time. Slow and steady wins the race, Brian. Slow and steady wins the race.
All right. Well, Peter, we're running out of time, so why don't we get to the questions before we go to the Apertura talk?
Indeed. Okay. So we'll keep the Apertura question for the Apertura. And we'll ask, mainly about, I guess we're going back to the national team in this case, but
you already won the national team.
Yeah, question for, you know what I mean, but back to like a topic we already touched on. It's a question from B. So stop throwing me off, Brian. Question from B at the B Lara, and they asked, when is Christian Benavente getting called up? I know it's the last sort of cycle-ish for Farfan, and Ruidíaz will take over. Is it time for Benavente? I spent the entire weekend fielding Benavente questions for my mailbag. I had to eventually massage my temples because I was getting a migraine just thinking about this. So I'm just going to say one quick thing, and then I'll throw it over to you guys because I'm tired about talking about this. Look, it's nothing too concerning yet because it's still early in the season in Belgium. He scored over the weekend, which is great to see. Look, he's still young enough. He'll still be on the radar. If he has a good run of form, he'll still be on the radar then. But if he doesn't get into any of these next squads or close out 2018, then maybe we can start fully worrying about Benavente's future. So with that, I'll throw it over to you guys because I am tired of talking about this.
Well, what is shocking me a little bit is that Benavente is being treated as if he's the next Manco. And I think, when I think about this, it's all coming back. Better said, people are concerned as if it's the next Manco. No. The thing I want to say is, looking back, I have a feeling it all has to do with that one match he played well against Argentina and Buenos Aires, because he was outstanding in that match. But it's really weird because I thinking back as well, the Sudamericano, the best player there and the best young player in the league at that point was Jordi Reina, and no one talks about him anymore. So it does seem kind of weird. I guess it's because he's a likable bloke. So it could be because of that, but it's weird. And to answer the question, he's not. Diego, you're next.
With Benavente, I think it's kind of like you've said before, Brian, that the way he plays, sometimes it looks like he's out of the system. And so because of that, maybe Gareca's taking his time and looking in other areas, seeing if someone else can fit that. While Christian keeps playing with his team, and hopefully he hits a good run of form, and then like Peter said, maybe on the lookout before the year's over.
Now, if I were Benavente, I think I would focus on getting to a bigger club. I mean, Charlie, he does well at Charlie.
Absolutely.
I think the national team should be the least of the concerns right now because still has a lot of time to play for it. I think the best thing for him right now is focusing on getting to a bigger club. So, Viz,
10 days left in the Spanish transfer window as at the time of recording. So, and there have been La Liga clubs linked to him all summer long. So maybe that's his future landing spot, but I doubt it at this point.
All right, Viz, what do you think?
That's what I was going to say, actually, that I think that I am a little surprised that no clubs from La Liga have called him back, especially because they probably know him well. I mean, he did most of his youth stuff at Real Madrid Castilla, which is obviously not that bad of a club in the Spanish system overall. To just, that's considering that it was Zinedine Zidane that was the coach at the time. Just saying.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. Just not bad at all. So I think he's proven himself in Belgium, like we've said. Yeah, and I would agree also with what Brian said that I think his biggest worry should be now that obviously I can do well in a decent European league. Can I now go to a top 4 league, top 4 European leagues? If not, I think that La Liga would be the obvious choice, but I don't know, maybe France, close enough to Belgium.
Wolfsburg was linked to him as well, so Germany.
Or Germany.
Yeah, but I don't trust Wolfsburg with Peruvians. That's what happened to Asquez. So just show them a Spanish passport, and then it's like, okay, can I play now? So
Brian has severe trust issues with Wolfsburg.
And Bengochea.
And Bengochea, yes.
Oh,
never forget.
Okay, and do we have one more question or two, Peter?
We have 2, but they're related to the Apertura, so we can move on.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the Apertura. So I mean, we weren't originally going to talk about this, but I thought like last minute this maybe a little. Well, Peter thought this would be a good thing. I'm not going to take all the credit for this, but we all thought that we should talk about the Alianza Cristal Deveco. Now, this past weekend, Cristal drew the second consecutive game against Binacional. They almost lost it, actually. A Michael Sotillo error. Yeah, it's pretty rare to see a Michael Sotillo error, but he made a mistake in the very last few moments of the match against Cristal, and then let them equalize. So it's now Cristal is still a pretty good advantage now. Cristal, Alianza, well, better said, Alianza also bottled it as well. So Alianza, the problem with Alianza is that they just don't take advantage of Cristal's slip-ups, and that's been the case in Peruvian football for the last few years. It's very forgiving. So Alianza, I'm trying to remember who they drew. Peter, please remind me.
Who did Alianza Lima tie, you mean, like recently?
Yeah, the last game. They tied, didn't they?
Huancayo.
That's right. They drew with Huancayo 1-1, who we will leave for another time because I do have expectations for Huancayo in the Clausura, but I think that's for another time. And Huancayo, that would have been a good draw normally, but just considering the circumstance, it wasn't good. It wasn't very good at all. They needed to win. I think once again, Bengochea falls because Afonso didn't start. Roberto Villamarin on the right wing. I totally didn't shoehorn that one in, but yeah, no. Afonso not starting was the big one. I mean, if he started, you could have made the argument that Alianza could have won the game. I mean, I thought Huancayo wore the better side. I thought Alianza weren't really that threatening. They kind of just got to go out of the blue. But you could argue that Afonso could have made the Alianza attack a lot better than it actually was. So, now they're in trouble. Now they have to win the last 2 games no matter what and hope Cristal draw or lose to Sport Rosario, which is unlikely. Sorry, Christopher. And I think that I don't think that it's gonna happen because Cristal. Here's my logic, okay? And it's just a personal hunch that Cristal played a really good game against Huancayo. They failed to win, but Huancayo defended really well, and I can't see that happening for Rosario. I think Rosario have one really good central defender, Eric Rossi, who, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's suspended for the next match. Or was it last match? No, that was last match. I think he's back for Cristal.
Yeah.
He's one very good defender, but the rest are defenders that are they're good in moments and bad in others. They're very inconsistent. I think Rossi's the only one that's really consistent, and I just can't see them containing Cristal for 90 minutes. So I think Cristal's got this in the bag personally. And Alianza is gonna have to do a second, which they might not even finish second. If they lose to UTC and then drop points in the last match, I think Garcilaso is going to overtake them. Which I didn't think I'd say that because Garcilaso have been poor most of the Apertura, but somehow they find themselves third and they have a chance to finish second. So what do you guys think? Viz, I'll let you go first since you're the Sport Rosario panelist here.
Sure. Well, concerning Sport Rosario, I think that we need a goalie ASAP. I know that Cáceres has been linked to Sport Rosario. I think that would be kind of crazy considering that obviously there is some kind of financial crisis going on in the club, which is now also the source of the financial crisis is also a mystery because everything seemed fine until all of a sudden during the World Cup, we're just seeing Rosario players drop left and right. I would agree with you. I think that Rosario, I don't know if they can hold off for a full 90 minutes against Cristal. This is not the Rosario that beat Cristal last year, obviously. And I think, if anything, as a Rosario fan, my biggest worry right now is to get some cheap yet solid reinforcements for the Clausura and be able to maintain ourselves in Sudamericana. So who knows? Maybe our mind should be in starting the Clausura with good footing instead of knowing that it might be kind of hard to do the impossible, But I mean, who knows though? I mean, it's still going to make for an interesting game. We kind of had a little bit of a rivalry against Cristal ever since we ascended to the first division. So yeah, it will be interesting for sure.
All right, Peter, what about you? What do you think?
I think, well, look, this is Cristal's title to lose at the end of the day. I mean, both have been tripping over each other towards the end. It's like a hot potato, like you take it, no, you take it. And neither one seems to really want to actually take this thing by the scruff of the neck. The UTC match is obviously going to be really the ultimate decider here. As a neutral's perspective, I'm hoping Alianza win because then the final weekend is entertaining and will actually have something to pay attention to. Look, Cristal, I think will get business done either way. They're going to know what's on the line. Salas has had a tendency to be able to pick up this team in crucial moments. And as you said, Brian, Sport Rosario's defense in recent games has been quite wide open and atrocious. And against Cristal's defense, that's probably not ideal for them.
Yeah, and Diego, what do you think on this matter?
Basically what Peter said. I mean, it's Cristal's to lose. There's no other way around it, I think.
All right, so why don't we answer the last two questions, Peter, before I end it?
Indeed. There was actually one that I missed, which Diego actually fielded. So I'll pull it up now. It's on the national team, and then we'll get into the other two questions. This guy, I guess, could kind of go around the table, but it's from Sportsfan at Sportsfan315 asking, who do you see as the leaders based on this squad? So we can go round table. Whoever wants to jump in first, go ahead.
Ooh, that is a tough one.
It's tough.
Renato Tapia is not there, but he's not old enough anyway, so I'm not sure how many are respecting. Guerrero's not there, and I don't see Farfan as a leader, to be honest. I still think he's a bit of a bad influence in some ways. I think it's still something that's in him in somewhere.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think he's led by example a lot of the time. I mean, when we saw that Paolo wasn't there with the squad, look, he took his team on his back, scored that decisive goal, opened up the floodgates against New Zealand. I think he's actually been really well-mannered since he's returned to the national team almost a year ago.
Well, then I'll say him as vice captain. I think Pato Alvarez should be the captain.
What? What? Okay.
He just has an
trying
anti.
to stir the
Listen,
pot here.
Brian, I think Brian is still salty from last year when he ripped apart Farfan's return to the national team, and he's still salty because he's actually done really well for himself and has been well behaved. So he's lashing out a little bit.
I'm not salty at all. I didn't even think about that when you told me. But anyways, no, Farfan should be the captain, and I don't. Vice captain's a bit tough. Maybe Ramos. Maybe Ramos.
Yeah,
Or Ramos, yeah.
I think that Farfan could be the captain for ceremonial reasons, but honestly, I think that he's a bit of an introvert. I think he's always shown that he's not one for the spotlight, for the limelight. I think if anything, the natural leaders right now have to be like Cueva, Ramos, like we just mentioned. I would say one of those two, but then again, I guess why not? You know, I think those would be my two candidates, if not three, including Gallese.
All right, and Peter, what about the next question?
All right, so the Apertura questions. I do agree, by the way, with Cristian Ramos. I think he actually did captain one of the friendlies in March, so I think he'd kind of be the natural leader there. And we saw or Advincula too, actually. That's a good call. But I noticed that after the Denmark game, when a few of the players actually like collapsed to the ground and they were lying on their backs looking all defeated, Ramos went over to them, rallied the troops and said, guys, come on, let's not sulk. Let's pick ourselves up because we still got one more game to save our World Cup. So that was kind of nice to see from that point of view. So I think Ramos might be the leading candidate upon reflection.
Yeah.
So the first of two questions to round this out. We'll just go kind of rapid fire here with our answers. But the first one's from Robbie C at BNCEO asking, are fans of the Peruvian First Division okay with its standing in the global football world, or do they have a complex about not being better like Americans do with Major League Soccer?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Oh, yeah. Let Christopher answer. Let Christopher answer first. I'll remember it. So.
No, I think we're fine because we're a developing country. I think that's why. I think that the complex with MLS is probably because the United States is the world superpower, and yet soccer is the one thing that the rest of the world can say that they're better at than the United States. But Peru, we know that we're a fairly small country. We know that we come from a deep South American tradition, and we know that we're a developing country. So I think, if anything, our league, there's worse. Let's just put it that way. There's worse leagues in the world. Almost anywhere in Oceania, anywhere in Asia, and anywhere probably half of Africa is worse than us.
Well, I'd say
so.
It's actually interesting. I'd say that
world level, guys. Let's calm down here.
I'd say that, look, outside of Europe, North America, outside of Europe and North America, I'd say we're better in pretty much most leagues in the world. But there's two leagues that I want to call out that I think are better than us. The K League and the J League. I think those two are definitely better than us. Definitely the J League. The J League, I mean, Kashima Antlers reaching the final and almost beating Real Madrid, being the South American champion. I can't say any Peruvian club doing that. So the J League is comfortably better, and they've had players like Hulk too. Come on.
I wouldn't see Kashima Antlers coming to the other side of the world and playing against one of our guys. Playing at Unión Comercio, playing against Comerciantes Unidos out in the middle of the jungle. See how they do that.
You could say the same thing for Real Madrid. So are you suggesting Unión Comercio could beat Real Madrid?
I'm not suggesting that. All I'm saying is that if Kashima Antlers made it so far in the tournament, it's because let's be honest, the Club World Cup, you're bringing teams from all over the world and you're giving them like 2 days to get used to it. You know?
Yeah, but you still got to think of the goal. You still got to think of the golfing quality. I do think the K League is better than the Peruvian League, but just those two. I don't think the A League or the Chinese League are better. So I'm sorry, Michelle, if you're listening, but the A League is not better than the Peruvian League. And as for the Peruvian League being poor and how we need to kick off, I was having a conversation with my dad earlier today, And he was saying, and not just him, many other people are saying that because the league is a disaster, the World Cup is an oasis in the desert, or the World Cup, or we're not water the World Cup. I mean, get over it. The last 8 years, the Peruvian league has improved, and we're still the worst league in South America, and we still qualified. So as long as you have that core group of players and that quality, then I think that is definitely you definitely got to be careful there with the Peter, stop texting me. You're distracting me. I think that you think.
Listen, I said rapid fire. You guys have been going on for 3 minutes on this exact same tangent. So let's wrap it up.
Okay. Rapid fire. Fine.
You're making your editing harder, mate. But anyway,
let's just wrap it up.
I do think that the league is. I mean, it's a concern. Yes, we wanted to improve, but ultimately, as long as the quality is not, I mean, there's talent there. There's talent, but as long as if there isn't talent, then you start to worry. If not, then I think the core is the most important part to get into the World Cup. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And Peter, do we have one more question?
We have 2. So instead of slowly loading up a 100-year-old shotgun, let's do rapid fire, guys. So this was an interesting question as well from Robbie. If Zlatan or Rooney, a player like that, came to Peru to play in the domestic league, I would assume, would it be celebrated or looked down upon? So that's an interesting proposition. Yeah. Let's throw it out there.
Well, I think that's a very what if question because I don't think Ibrahimovic would ever come here. I don't think he would want to either. I would say he's too good for Peru or something. I don't know, but knowing his ego, he would say something like that. Even though Rui Diaz just destroyed it the other day, he scored 1 goal, he didn't even play. But no, hello BNCO, he's listening to us. I just wanted to give a shout out to him. I think that Ibrahimovic, it will be laughed upon, I think, because every time we've had a rumor like this, local Bruno Cristal for Lantalo, it's been laughed off. And it's always because it's white smoke. But I don't think we've ever had a situation like that, to be honest. I mean, we're having Germán Denis coming to Lau, which is definitely the closest we've had in many years. Maybe Juan Pablo Pino, but Juan Pablo Pino has always had problems, so Germán Denis hasn't had those. So I think it's definitely an interesting question that it's kind of impossible to answer right now because we've never really had a situation like that where we've had a really high-profile player join. Not that I can think off the top of my head anyways.
Let me really do rapid fire here. So basically what I think is that any European that with that kind of salary were to come to Peru, we would see criticism because they would be asking for a lot of money and people would say that you could spend that money training youth that would benefit us more than just trying to show cute football.
Well, I think it'll be a mixed bag, to be honest. You can finish your point, but I would just say I think it'll be mixed because I think there's some people that will be ignorant and think that this is just my opinion that I don't think it'll be good if Ibrahimovic came because like Christopher just said it all. But I think that there's the people that will be ignorant and say, "Oh, Ibrahimovic, let's get shirt sales. Let's get the shirts let's get a shirt at Gamara or something." But or you could have the people who would say that you should focus on youth. So why don't you finish your point, Christopher? I think it will be a mixed bag.
The only comment I have left is basically that something similar has happened, not with a high-profile player, but there was a British goalkeeper that came to Universitario a few years back. He literally lasted like 3 months.
He wasn't high-profile. He was an amateur player, mate.
I said he was not high-profile. I just said that. This is rapid fire. Let's move on.
All right, last question, Peter.
Started this 7 minutes ago. We've only answered 2 questions. Anyway, question from Abel Gamarra at Avalanda81 to round it out. Given the financially frail state of many Peruvian clubs, what do you think is the ideal number of clubs for our first division? Apparently, the FPF eventually wants 20, which seems illogical. I completely agree. I think the current number is probably the number to go with, but let's be honest, guys, there are really only a handful of clubs that are really, let's say, quote-unquote, proper first division sides when it comes to the organizations and the financial side of things.
Before I end the pod, I did want to comment on this. I've been thinking about this question for a few hours, not a few hours, but like a few, maybe like an hour before the pod. Not a few hours, but not a few minutes either. I wanted to say that
I'm disappointed in You rapid fire, Brian.
I wanted to say 16. Okay. 16
Okay,
is
thank
a
you.
good number because. Hello.
We're here.
We hung up on Brian.
Okay. 16 because you don't want to have 10. We want to endorse the sport, but we also don't want to have too many because there's not enough clubs that can maintain it. Okay, case closed. So
Wait, I'm going to say my piece. What I advocate is something like La Liga, round robin, 2-leg tournament, and I would love to see a domestic cup that would include the second division and also less teams from Lima, more teams from outside of Lima. But 16 is a perfect number. Nothing more, nothing less.
Okay.
Diego, what do you think?
Agreed. I actually wanted to say the same thing as Christopher, where I would love to see a cup where you see more second division teams.
All right, well, let's end the pod here. This is not going to be rapid fire this part, but my Twitter is B_Bertine98. Diego, what is yours?
Mine is at D Montalban.
Vince, what is yours?
Mine is VIZ_FC. Sporankesh did not play this week, so we're good to go.
Okay, and Peter, how about you?
I am at Galindo PW. Follow the show at Peru Waltz. Subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, all that good stuff as well.
All right, so thank you for listening or watching wherever you came from. Hopefully listening because the uncut version is going to be absolutely a mess looking back at this. But we'll join you guys next week. So see you.